All right. Welcome, everyone. I believe we are live. What is today? Today's Thursday. Welcome. I know it's going to take some time for people to come on live. So as you're hopping in, just drop me a hello, drop a comment, and just let me know what city and state that you're tuning in from. That would be awesome. Tonight we're going to cover some recession proof franchises, and we're just going to talk about this whole recession idea and how to pursue opening a business and being an entrepreneur in these times of economic uncertainty, and how can you capitalize on it, how can you benefit from it, and how can you take advantage and still be able to provide for your family, meet your goals despite what's happening in the world around us. Because the reality is there are opportunities right now that you can actually thrive in. So we're going to talk about that tonight. And so again, as you're coming in, let me know like what city and state that you're tuning in from. If you're watching the replay, drop me a comment and say replay so that way I know who is coming in from what. But we're going to go ahead and get started. I know that most people will wind up tuning in to the replay, so we'll just hop right in. I'm going to share my screen. Boom. All right. So, here's the reason why I wanted to talk about this and do a live on this. I did one a while back, maybe almost a year ago now, is because what I see is that some people are when you feel uncertain about what's going to happen in the future, it for most people, for a lot of people, it paralyzes them, right? Oh, I want to wait until after the election. I want to wait until the stock market goes back up, or I think the stock market's going to go down. So I want to wait until that. And so the idea behind this is that, the most successful people, they take action and are decisive during uncertain times. And that's usually how they're able to build the success that they have. So, how do we do that? How do we go out there and take advantage? Well, let's dive in. So, what we're going to discuss tonight, we're going to discuss the 4 best ways to profit from franchises right now. We're going to talk about a weird wealth building strategy during recessions. We're also going to hit on 4 specific recession resistant, recession proof, whatever you want to call it, franchise opportunities with high profit potential. And that's according to their FDDs, their franchise disclosure documents. So it's not just like random numbers. We're not doing random. We don't do that. We like to provide specific numbers, and especially franchises that have a strong track record, like not just one location. So what's the most important as you go into this, right? What's the most important thing to ask yourself? Number one, which is, what does this mean? So right now, technically, we are not in a recession, right? Um, but like, what does this mean for you? If we do go into a recession, if the economy does start to suffer, and when you start asking yourself these questions, it starts to lead you down the path of looking at opportunities that you can capitalize on, or that make sense for you, make sense for your family, and still allow you to make a good decision and to reach your goals, but while minimizing your risk and just being smart, right? And so we'll talk about that in a second. But I want you to think about, though, like what does this mean, right? It probably means that some businesses are going to stop marketing. They're going to stop spending money, right? And so that means that there could be an opportunity. What else does it mean? As an example, interest rates are high right now, right? So like people aren't really selling their houses unless they need to, because they don't want to get out of like a 3% mortgage, or in some cases a 2% mortgage. So they're not really selling their homes. So, okay, so businesses that involve selling homes, maybe at least for now, if I get into it, I know that it wouldn't ramp up for however long this is going to take, maybe a year. But people are going to stay in their homes. So what does that mean? We'll talk about that, right? And then, so how can you capitalize and go with the trend? What are the trends right now? Have you even asked yourself that question? So these are the things where when you start to bring conscious awareness to these questions, ideas start to churn, right? As opposed to going, oh, hey, let me pick up a business that I'm passionate about, right? Which is a terrible way to go about things. And then the question to ask yourself is, how quickly do you need to act and what is the cost of waiting? Because most people, like, it's easy to associate risk to taking action, right? Hey, if I buy this business, if I start this business and it doesn't work, then the consequence or the cost of that is XYZ, right? But if you do not take action, if you don't start a business, buy a business, what's the cost of waiting? Not just in the specific opportunity, but if you're not happy in your current situation right now, like what impact does that have on you? Is the stress at your job, at your work, and doing whatever you're doing now, is that impacting your health because it's impacting your stress levels, or is that impacting the amount of time that you have with your family? And then from the other side of it, from the business perspective, is look, with some of these franchises, there's limited territories, right? And some territories go quicker than others. So you may love a franchise brand, and if you wait, someone can come in and scoop it up and scoop your area up, and then that's it. It's not available anymore. And that's a very real thing. We've seen it happen, unfortunately, more times than I'd like to admit with people that we've worked with, just because like we can't force someone to move quickly. Someone doesn't want to move, we can't make them move. All we can do is say, "Hey." And I think sometimes people, franchisors may say, "Hey, there's someone else in your territory looking at this specific territory," and people tend to think it's a, a sales tactic, which it could be sometimes. Um, but a lot of times it's like, "Oh, sorry, they already signed for that territory." So there is a cost of waiting. These opportunities are not going to be around forever. Franchises do sell out in terms of territories, and there's the fact that this a dollar today is worth more than a dollar tomorrow, right? So there is an opportunity cost to waiting. And again, we're going to dive into the specific franchises in just a minute here. Look, this is just like the boring definition of a recession, but basically it's a significant decline that lasts for more than a few months and affects a broader economy. Um, and usually people don't know it's a recession until about 6 to 18 months after. And there's varying definitions of a recession, but technically it's a decline in GDP of multiple quarters. So the reason why I put the definition up here, I know it's super boring, and I don't mean to bore you, but the reason why is because you want to see things as they are, not worse than they are. People hear the word recession, and there's so much energy in that word recession. We hear it, and it's like, recession, scary. There's like emotions and panic and all sorts of things that happen in our brains and bodies when we hear the word recession. But the reality is that the definition is just a decline in gross domestic output, essentially. So let's talk about, before we dive into these specific franchises, we're gonna dive in and we're gonna cover them. This is important context first, but what happens during a recession, right? So in a recession, income typically stagnates or drops due to employers reducing their workforce or cutting hours, right? Depending upon the business, though. In a recession, the unemployment rate typically goes higher, right? And companies continue to want to cut back and reduce their expenses, right? Consumer spending slows overall. Typically, interest rates are higher, right? So right now, there's probably going to be less people buying businesses and franchises because they can't afford to, because the cost of capital to get a loan is higher, which means your monthly payment's going to be higher, which means more people will not be able to afford it. Just like your mortgage payment would be more expensive if you got a house now at a 7%, 6% interest rate than 3%, right? So when I look at that, I see opportunity. There's less people out there competing for businesses right now. And although maybe starting a business during this time, maybe it doesn't ramp up quite as quick as if the economy's booming, but you put yourself in the position and you, let's say you save your spot in line, right? You kind of mark your territory. So How can you benefit? Well, there's going to be a window of opportunity for those people who act quickly. So decide to be one of the few people that actually take action. Most people who watch this right now are going to watch it, say that was interesting, that was good, I intend to take action, and then never do. And so you can easily put yourself ahead of others by simply acting, by simply moving forward and making a decision. The way that you do that is you define your goal, right? Your destination, you set a time frame to get there, and then you get started, right? So you say, okay, I have a goal to replace my income, and I want to do that by the next 2 years, and then you get started, right? And Warren Buffett has a famous quote saying, "Hey, be fearful when others are greedy and be greedy when others are fearful." So when people are scared and when people are scared to start businesses and say that it's a terrible time to start business, that's actually the best time, right? When the stock market was down and had a big downward cycle, what was that in late 2021? That was the best time to buy. And then it carried into 2022, and everyone is saying that there was all this fear, but that was actually the best time to buy, right? And so people are already scared right now, and there's a high probability the fear will increase. That means opportunity. I'm not going to go over this graph. It was an example of how low Apple stock price went in 2009, right? Very low. So there's four ways that you can capitalize on this. I told you that I would tell you about this. Four ways to capitalize this in terms of this recession, whether it happens or not, in terms of owning a franchise. Number one, oh, and by the way, we're going to cover specific franchise opportunities. Um, a lot of them are ones that we cover in our newsletter. So I'm just going to drop this little banner here that you can go to franchiseempire.com/newsletter, and you'll be able to see a lot of these franchise opportunities that we're talking about. You'll be able to see all the numbers, how much they cost to get open, what are their franchise fees, what are their average sales. I mean, we list so much details about these franchises. So I would definitely recommend going there. You'll be able to see a lot of great things. But we're going to cover some live here specifically for specific franchise opportunities. So hang around and watch for that. But you want to make sure that you go to franchiseempire.com/newsletter and sign up so you can get the weekly emails. And then on our website, I'll show you where it is later, where you can go and see all of the previous weeks. I think you'll enjoy that. All right. So the first way to make money is as an owner operator. Pretty simple. You are the owner, you operate the business. That means you're full-time in the business. Doesn't mean you're managing the day-to-day, but you are full-time in the business, overseeing it, operating it. Um, in my opinion, that's the best way to put yourself in a position to succeed and make the most money in the shortest period of time. Number one, you're going to have a lower labor cost, right? Because you're not paying someone to do that. You're doing it, and you're just going to be able to go all in on your business. So I think if you have the opportunity to go in owner operator first, quit your job, go in owner operator, and do that for a year, get the business up and running, put the foundation in place, then you can always put a manager in place once the business has momentum, and then you can go back and get a job. That was one of the things that I did. I quit my job, worked in the franchise first, got things up and running, put the foundation in place, made sure that the momentum was going, and then I went back to the workforce. So the second thing you could do is semi-absentee, which is essentially meaning you're not working full-time in the business. You probably have a manager that is helping to run the business for you. Now, let me just be very clear in saying that there's a lot of BS out there in the franchise space, and franchisors wanting to sell you the dream of like, you can only work 5 or 10 hours in your business and you can just hire someone and they're going to run it for you. Guys, look, okay. I I owned a location that was 2,500 miles away, and I had a 22-year-old kid running my store, and it performed very well. But that came from me being in the business for 8 months first, laying the foundation. So yes, semi-absentee is possible, and I did it, and eventually I was pretty much absentee in the business. Um, but if you're not prepared to put in the work up front and you think that potentially paying someone a $50,000 or $60,000 a year salary is going to care as much about your business as you will, and you're fully depending upon that person, then you're in for a rough ride. Let me just tell you that. So there is a way to operate successfully semi-absentee, but make sure to go in with the mindset that you're still going to hustle and work hard and do whatever it takes, because that's the mindset you need to have. The third way to go about this is to buy a profitable resale, and there are resales in the that are in the recession-proof space. We'll talk about that. So you can buy an existing profitable resale. Now, there's not a ton of opportunities. There's limited inventory when it comes to resale. So one of the best ways to be in a position to buy resale is to already be in the franchise brand. And then when your neighboring franchisees around you are ready to sell, then you have the opportunity to come in and scoop it up before it hits the public market, right? The fourth one is a turnaround resale, meaning you are buying a resale that is struggling or that is either losing money, breaking even, or just barely profitable. That could be for a variety of different reasons, but you're able to buy a turnaround resale. That was what I did with my second store that I purchased. That was a turnaround. Okay, so now into the juicy stuff. So let's talk about specific industries. So the first one that we're going to cover is senior care. And how do I want to do this? Because I have it on another screen here, and I'm sharing that screen. Let's see. Do I want to show them all first? All right. So actually, here we'll do it like this. So I'm going to show you specific franchises in these spaces. So senior care, automotive, recruiting, as in like recruiting employees, and home services and real estate services. So we're going to talk about 4 specific franchises in those space. 2 other industries and categories that we're not going to pull up a specific franchise, but are categories that I think are interesting for being recession proof are childcare, and that could be child entertainment, but that could be daycare, kids enrichment places, and pet services, right? People are going to spend money on their pets no matter what. All right, so let's dive into it. I'm going to share something else here. And so let's talk about franchise number 1. Reshare my screen. Oh, here we go. All right. So the first franchise. So this is directly from our franchise newsletters that we put out every week. So if you want to get access to this, you just go to franchiseempire.com, and then you go to resources, and then you go to Empire Builder articles, and then you can see all the previous weeks that we broke down. And if you want to sign up for it, well, you got the blue thing, the banner running at the bottom of the screen, franchiseempire.com/newsletter. But you can click here, right? Resources, Empire Builder newsletter, and you can put your email address in. And 2,700, yeah, it's about 2,700. That's about accurate, actually, for now. So you can go there to see all the past ones, and we put out a new one every week. So let's talk about the first franchise. And this was a resale that we had talked about. But the first one is home healthcare, right? And so, I think this is interesting. Let me see if I can make this bigger. There we go. So this specific franchise, and keep in mind, let me change this now. For any of these franchises, if you want to see if they are available in your area, our team can check for you for free. And so you can just go to franchiseempire.com/check territory. All right. The way to get there, if you go on the website, super easy. You just go to start here. I'm a franchise buyer. And then you can just click on any of these ones, available franchises. And then you can click get started for free and see what franchises are available in your market. Or the whole time, you can just go to schedule a free 15-minute call. It'll be super easy. But okay, so this franchise specifically, Assisting Hands Home Care. So it's senior care. There's all sorts of statistics right now about the aging senior care population and the opportunity there. In this case, the original location started in 2006. There are 5 corporate-owned units. There are 170 franchise units. So this is an established franchise system. There's a lot of excitement and buzz right now about, ooh, the next big brand, the next big franchise opportunity. I mean, at the end of the day, that's great and all, but some of those are not very proven. They have one location that's been successful, and they're literally selling dozens and dozens of franchises based off of one location that was successful. So in this case, you have 170 franchise units, right? So more proven. Franchise fee is 55 grand. You got the royalties here that decrease as revenue goes up, which is awesome. Not all franchises work like that. The national marketing fee is cheap, only 0.5%, which is great. And it's pretty low cost. The total investment range is 88 grand to 160 grand to get open. Let me see if I can make this bigger because it still does look pretty small. There we go. There we go. There we go. So the cool thing for those of you who may not be familiar with how to actually fund a franchise is that typically if you do an SBA loan, which is one of the most common ways to do it, is that you typically you can only put 20% down out of pocket and then you get a loan for the rest. So if this was on the high end, you would need 32 grand to put down and then you finance the rest with an SBA loan, assuming you qualify. A 10-year franchise term, which franchise agreement, which is pretty standard. And look, they assist in non-medical assistance at home, right? And that is the easier way to go about it from an operation standpoint. You get into medical assistance, and then there's more licenses there. You need to have more highly trained staff, etc. And so it's really helping people that, need help with bathing, grooming, meal prep, light housekeeping, transportation, etc. And so you're hiring caregivers that can offer this care. Now, this is a little bit hard to see. I'll try to make it a little bit bigger, but it's a little bit blurry. But you can see some of the revenue by location and how long they've been open, which is pretty cool. It's pretty transparent. So you can see, as an example, the Phoenix, Arizona location. Oh, they opened in 2009. They have 4 territories, right, with 2 office locations. They do 7.8 million in revenue, right? And then you can just go down and see literally they disclose all of the franchise owners based on location and what the aggregate in sales are. I mean, man, Brevard, Florida. Brevard County is not too far from me. I'm in Orange County. There's only 2 businesses there. They do 8.8 million. It started in 2015. Well, why do you think? I mean, part of it's because Florida has a higher aging population. And this is what I'm talking about in terms of trends and looking out for different things like that. But you can see all of these numbers. Some of these businesses, 3 million, 1 million, 7.7 million, 2 million. Okay, this one does 444,000. The question would be why? Like, I would want to talk to this franchisee and want to know, why are they underperforming so poorly? And so there are 2 more pages that are disclosed in the FDD, which is pretty incredible. So that was the first franchise. That was the senior care one. So let's hop to the next one. The next one is in the automotive space. So this one's a little bit more expensive. We showed you one that is lower cost to get open. The second franchise in the automotive space. At the end of the day, no matter what's happening in the economy, people are going to need their cars fixed. They're going to need tires. They're going to need basic service on their vehicles. And there's a higher likelihood actually that people spend the money to get their vehicle serviced. Whereas in the past, when interest rates are only 1% or 2% for cars, you might go, you know what? And instead of doing that, instead of getting all new tires, I'm just going to trade the car in. Instead of doing this $2,000, $2,500 service, I'll just trade it in. I'll just get something new. People may not want to do that because the interest rates are so much higher. I actually just replace my vehicle, and it was like, man, my payment was so much more because the interest rate was so much higher. I think it was like 6.5 something, or I forget the exact rate that I got, but I was getting out of a car loan that was like 2%. So R&R Tire, this shows some interesting numbers, by the way. So they started offering franchises in 2002, and they're in 30 states, right? And they have 23 corporate owned stores. So talk about when you know that there's a real opportunity with a specific franchise is when there's that many corporate owned stores. Because what that says is that A, they don't want to just be limited to just the royalty money. They want to be a part of that, the profit and the the core economics of what that business is producing. They have 155 franchise stores. The franchise fee's 45 grand. They take 5% of gross revenue, 2% marketing fee. I drink sparkling water, some LaCroix because I'm fancy, and um, don't drink sparkling water before you have to talk. Anyways, so this one is a little bit more expensive to build out, right? So you got to have a little bit of a higher net worth. The total investment range is between 600 grand and 1.5 million to get open, right? So which would mean if you're going to fund it with an SBA loan, you would need to have between 120 to 300 grand to put in as your equity injection and then get a loan for the rest of it. All right. And so R&R Tire is the largest franchisor of rent-to-own wheel and tire store nationwide. Very, very interesting, right? Where they have this pay-as-you-go model. And underserved and recession-resistant market. This includes sales of tires, alignments, tire rotations, wheel balance, tire repair, maintenance, and more. So a pretty cool business. I think the automotive space is a pretty interesting business overall. And so when we break down some of the numbers, if we take a look here, let me make this a little bit bigger now. Um, is so the following results are the average from 151 express stores that reported during the 2002 calendar year and were open for the full year, right? So that's a pretty good that's a pretty good idea of what we're not just talking about a franchise that had one or two successful locations. Now they're franchising and asking you to invest their life savings. There are 151 locations. Talk about a track record, right? So we can see that the average result in total revenue is 1.7 million, and they show the average cost of goods, right? 36%. Average operating expenses and the average operating income of those locations. They break down the highs and lows, etc., as well as the median, right? The median is a number in the middle. And so you're not talking about huge operating income margins. 12%, it's not big. I mean, I know a lot of owners would love to be at like a 20% mark, but um, shows an interesting opportunity. So that's in the automotive space. These are showing the top 20 location stores, and those produce a higher percentage because they have higher revenue, which is pretty common with anything that has a retail location. The higher the sales, the higher the profit margin because you have that large fixed cost of your rent, and you have that regardless of if you do 500,000 in sales or 1.5 million in sales. All right, let's move on to the next one. If you're getting value, let me know. If you're enjoying this, I know we're 28 minutes in, but drop me a comment and let me know if you're finding this helpful. And again, if you want to check on R&R, see if they're available, or any franchises that to see if they're available in your area, you can go to franchiseempire.com/check territory, and we can check for you to see if they're available. Let's move on to the next franchise. So we're going to be talking about employment and staffing. So we have Express Employment Professionals. So this is a hard franchise to get into because, as you'll see, they've been around a long time. They have a lot of franchisees, but they started in 1983, possibly before I was born, possibly. Began franchising in 1985. When I was FaceTiming with my dad the other day, he did want to point out, like, he was like, "Are you getting gray in your beard?" I was like, "Thanks, Dad. Thanks for pointing that out. Appreciate it." Um, And our little girl Sophia, we have a 2-year-old, and she loves to, when I pick her up, she loves to play with my beard. She goes, "Daddy's beard?" She goes, "It's soft, soft." So cute. Kids are the best. All right, so employment, Express Employment, they're a staffing company. So they have 2 corporate-owned locations. They have 798 franchise units. So this will be a hard one to get into. Mostly there'll be a good amount of probably resales available throughout the country of people that have, owned this franchise for a while now. Um, but the franchise fee is 40 grand, royalties 8%, national marketing fee 2%, investment range is 100 to 400 grand depending upon the specific model you choose. Franchise terms only 5 years, which is very unique. They have over 912 locations worldwide, and they offer staffing services and HR business solutions to businesses and individual. So what they're doing is they offer temporary and flexible or direct hire, contract staffing, and kind of skilled trades, professional, light industrial, and administrative services overall. This is a great business for someone who you're not afraid to go out and network and sell and build relationships, because this is really like a B2B sales type of business, right? And so when you can take a look at some of their numbers, franchise units that were opened full year 2020, 2021, or 2022, they're showing, let's see, for the first 12 months, 29 units, average sales of just over 1 million, highest sales 2.6, lowest 187,000. Units open and operating their second 12 months, or 18 of those. The median was 2.2, average 2.6 million, highest was 5.6 million. Then the first 24 months. So you see how the numbers scale. And then there were 418 units open more than 60 months, and their average annual sales were 7.1 million, which is pretty cool. Over 90% of the franchisees did not have a staffing or recruiting background, right? So when I talked about, hey, there's different buying strategies for these recession, there's just different franchise buying strategies overall. Like this you wouldn't have the best luck finding a new territory with this, because there's so many, 800 franchisees. But this could be something where maybe there's a resale opportunity, and maybe you pay a lot for it because it's producing a lot of revenue or sales or whatever it is. The higher price to resale is, typically it's a good thing, because businesses are typically sold for a multiple of their profits, right? So again, if you want to check and see if this is available, any other franchise is available in your area, you go to franchiseempire.com/check territory. And if you're just joining, by the way, you can go to franchiseempire.com/newsletter. This bad boy. Let's see if I can do it right. There you go. You go to that to get these newsletters. So this, as an example, this was one of the weeks of our newsletter. We feature a resale every week, right? So there was a resale there that was in Sugarland, Texas, a resale with an asking price of $1 million, SDE, seller's discretionary earnings of 315 grand, which is pretty cool. So we break these down every week. And so we have the newsletter, which we send out on Sunday mornings at 8:30. And completely free. And then we do a video live every Monday. So make sure you're subscribed if you're not. We're 33 minutes in, so I doubt you're watching this and not subscribed. Oh, I forgot, we stream to so many different places now. We're streaming to LinkedIn, Facebook, multiple YouTube channels. So you guys can find me on YouTube if that's not where you are. All right, let's move on to the next franchise, which is number 3. This is in the home services space, right? So I'm going to hide this. This is in the home services space. This is a franchise called Superior Fence and Rail. Started out in good old Orlando. What's up? Representing. In 2001, they started franchising in 2017, have over 100 units sold in 2024. They were acquired by a parent company called Empower Brands. 2021, they have 2 corporate units. They have 74 franchise units, franchise fee 60 grand basically. They have a declining royalty, which is great as your revenue increases. Total investment only between 130 grand to 206 grand. Here's my overall philosophy about just the home services space. One may think, okay, recession, people are holding on to their dollars tightly, which is would be accurate. But what would be accurate is that we're in a unique situation where no one's selling their home, or very little people are selling their home. And so the conversations that are being had in households are, hey, if we're not going to leave and move for 2 or 3 or 4 years, well, we might as well do that one project that we talked about doing, but we weren't going to do because we were going to move. Like this conversations that my wife and I've had. Our plan was we were going to buy a new house and by the end of 2023. Like now we're not going anywhere with our low interest rate and the inflated prices right now. We're not going anywhere. I mean, we'll probably be in this house at least another 2 or 3 years, if not more. So now we're talking about, oh, okay, maybe we should do that pool. Okay, maybe we should do the backyard, so on and so forth, right? So similar conversations that could be had. But again, 130K to 206 grand to get up and get open. If you got access to 20%, you can get an SBA loan. A lot of times people get that 20% through an old 401k in what's called the ROBS plan. The term 7 years. And yeah, this is a really interesting franchise. They're the first fence franchise in the US and have established themselves as the leader overall. When we take a look at some of their numbers, for the full 12 months ending September 30th, 2022, this was, I think, their most recent reporting. They show 30 franchisees. And let's just say, okay, so let's start with the bottom. The bottom third average about 1.1 million in sales. The middle third averaged 2.1 million in sales, and the top third 5.1 million. With the lowest performing location doing $500,000 in sales, the top performing location doing 9.4 million, which is pretty incredible. So those are some strong numbers for a pretty low cost franchise overall. This is why when people say I want to open a food franchise or a retail location, a lot of times you're gonna put out $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 for a retail location with a huge lease, and maybe it averages $700,000-$800,000 in sales, depending upon the franchise. When you have the opportunity to only put up 200 grand and have average numbers like this is why service is exploding in the franchise space overall. So that was it. That's all that we had, ladies and gentlemen. So if you want some help from here, if you want help finding a franchise, then you can go to franchiseempire.com. When you land on franchiseempire.com, you can just click this blue button here. It says schedule a free call, and you can schedule a free call with our team. We can see how we can support and help you. And let me just show you real quick to navigate our website. Start here. If you're a franchise buyer, then you can come here, and this will take you to one of our free trainings that you can get access to. So you can do that, our masterclass. And then there's kind of 3 different areas here: franchise resales, available franchises overall in your area, franchise due diligence. I would say click here, start at available franchises. And that's going to just tell you a little bit about our process and how it works, all that good stuff. And then you can click get started for free and schedule a free call with our brokerage team and just see what's available in your area. In terms of resources, again, you can find our newsletter. Well, this is to sign up for the newsletter. So you can get the emails that show these franchise opportunities weekly, and enter your email there, free to subscribe. And then you can go to Empire Builder articles. And if you click on newsletter articles right here, it'll just show you all of the last 19 weeks of our newsletter, where literally, like if you click on last week's, you can see, let me remove this. You can see the franchises that, we list and that we're talking about. And so like this is a resale in Austin, Texas, doing revenue of 1.69 million in sales. We give our opinion on it. Then you can click here to check on the resales in your area. We got some just client testimonials there. This was a franchise. That should say of the week, not month. But this is a franchise that has 100 units. Shows some insane numbers. The highest gross sales location is $36 million. The median is 4.1. So these are all the cool stuff that you can see in our newsletter when you go to franchiseempire.com/newsletter and you sign up. So hopefully you got a lot of value out of this. Every Thursday, I'm going to be going live at 5 p.m. Eastern. So mark your calendars. Stay tuned. We won't always talk about this topic, but we'll talk about something. So if you got value, hit the like button on YouTube or wherever you are so that the algorithms can show it to more people. And I hope you have an awesome evening. Peace out.